Hi, investigators. Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy with the weekly roundup of what's happened this week in investigations in Australia. Today we're looking at a whole range of things. The first thing I want to start off with is factual investigators out there. You're going to interview police officers and you're going to hear police terminology in your interviews. So we're going to explain what three of those mean today as we go through the program. The first one I want to start off with is this one. This is a brick. Now, you'll be interviewing the police officer and he'll say the person claimed he was bricked. And you'll be there going, what's a brick? And the police officer knows what a brick is and what it's for. Basically, it means someone who's not a very nice person has handed the suspect a brick. Now, that brick means that they've basically got into court and the suspect's gone, I didn't do it. And the magistrate says, what happened, officer? And the police officer reads out a full confession that's signed by the suspect. And the suspect's going, I didn't give that confession. That, people, is a brick. Okay, so you'll hear it as you go out and investigate. I'm not saying it happens every day, but be aware of the term and you'll know what it means. The old term used to be frame, but this one, it's a brick. So what's been happening in investigations around Australia this week? This is the program for people who love taking statements and love writing reports. It's a really exciting thing to do. So what's happened here is they've looked at the COVID-19 effects on accidents and car claims in insurance. That's what we investigate. And basically, they can't say there's been any kind of reduction in it. But what they've seen has been a reduction in new business for people signing up to insurance for new vehicles and a reduction in people renewing their old insurance policy. So that's something interesting. What does that mean for you, the CTP fraud investigator? That means someone has not got insurance. They may have an accident in the future and they may be on the side of the road, ring up and take out that insurance policy again after the accident. And basically that will be a claim where you'll be assigned to it to see when the accident happened and try and establish that with the witnesses, that sort of thing. So that's very interesting. Another thing that's come out this week that they've said in relation to insurance in Australia, not particularly an investigation, but it's something interesting you should know as an investigator who does CTP liability investigations, which I'm constantly talking about in this program, is they're saying that every insurance company is paying out not every insurance, the combined insurance companies are paying out $152.3 million a day in insurance claims. That's an amazingly large amount of money. They're paying that out and they're not arguing about it. And that happens in around about 95% of cases. So they're satisfied with 95% of the claims and it's less than 5% that they're unsatisfied with. And they're the ones that we will go out where there's missing information, where clarification is required. It might be perfectly all right. It could be just a simple miscommunication and investigators will get that job. So look at it technically, $152 million paid out each day, life insurance, workers' compensation insurance, general insurance, CTP liability, and just a little bit under 5% of that is going to be investigated for some reason. So that's really good news for us as investigators. Now, I constantly try and tell you what you're going to come up with when you're doing investigations in Australia. So let's have a look at some of the typical scenarios that you're going to be investigating. They're off YouTube. Some of them are a little bit graphic. that's a pretty bad one, the forklift one.
A worker had just arrived at the business next door. She saw the young worker standing in the middle of the elevated platform. The worker began to raise his right arm towards the power lines in what appeared to be a defensive manner. Electricity flashed over from the 25,000 volt line to the worker and traveled through the scissor lift to the ground.
So basically, there are 30 different types of investigations that you will do as a licensed private investigator in Australia. Now, Josh has written in this week saying, look, really enjoy your Friday live stream. It's very informative. Can you help me with some questions? Now, his questions basically are on your screen. And his first question is, what is the process of interviewing people under the age of 18? Second question, what advice would you give to young people? And third question, when conducting field surveillance and interrupted by police, how do you explain you are legally conducting surveillance and not a creep stalking someone? Do you have to show the police the footage taken? Well, that's in the course, Josh. So when you do the course, mate, you'll find the answer to number 3. But I brought in our nationally recognised training manager to answer your first question. What is the process of interviewing people under the age of 18 years of age? Welcome to the program, Pat.
Good afternoon, Mike. Good afternoon, everyone.
So what's the process with someone who's under 18?
Well, basically what happens is in all legislation across all jurisdictions in Australia, the definition of a child is a person under the age of 18. So if they're 17 years of age, they're a child. Now, all of the process, policy, procedure in regards to policing is that anyone under the age of 18, you must get a parent or guardian in when you do the interview with them or interview them for a statement. It's the same in government departments for compliance, and it's also the same for the insurance industry. All the service level agreements from your clients usually will specify the fact that anyone under the age of 18 you should have a parent or guardian present. I'll touch on something that relates to the quality of the information you get from them too. Now, there's a legal principle called doli incapax. It's a Latin term and it means incapable of doing wrong. Now, what it basically relates to is a child under the age of 10 is incapable of doing wrong, is incapable of knowing what they've done is wrong, and that's an irrebuttable presumption. So that's it. You can't alter that at all. Now, from age 10 to 14, it's a bit of a sliding scale upwards. So you've got to clarify with that child that's in the age bracket between 10 and 14, you have to try and establish what their intellectual and moral development is and their understanding of what they've done is wrong. Now, the questions you have to ask are along the lines of, do they realise what they have done is wrong, the seriousness of it, what were they taught by their parents and school teachers and things like that, so that you can determine what their intellectual and moral capacity is. So, coming back to interviewing witnesses, any witness who's a child under the age of 10, you can't use that witness at all for the same principle as the doli incapax. Now, in the insurance industry, it's not uncommon to come across children, which are 17 and younger, that may be a witness to something. Now, the quality of the information you get from them, you have to establish what their understanding and intellect is. So if they're 14 years of age, 15 years of age, you have to ask some questions in regards to their understanding and how much they understand the duty of telling the truth and being truthful, and it's a serious matter that you're actually interviewing them for. Now, when you go into doing records of interview with children, as I said, you need to have a parent or guardian. If you can't get a parent or guardian, sometimes there are young people around that are 17 years of age, they've left home, they've got their license, they've got a job, they share a house or an apartment with someone, and they say, I don't want a parent or guardian to come and sit with me while I'm being interviewed. That doesn't alter the fact of your obligation under your service level agreement with your insurance company. The easiest way to deal with that is to contact the local justice of the peace and get a justice of the peace to come in and sit with you while you do your interview. Now, there's two aspects that you have to look at, and particularly when you're dealing with statements, there's two aspects that you have to look at with that young person. The fact that what's contained in the statement is true and correct, and they're adopting the fact that it's true and correct. And then you've got to ask the person who's the parent or guardian to make sure that they're satisfied with the way that the interview was conducted. You get them to make a comment in regards to attesting to the young person's understanding and the truthfulness of what they've told you. So those comments need to be included in another jurat. So you do the jurat from the witness, and you do another jurat from the parent or guardian, and attest to the fact that they understood what was being done, what what the process was and the fact that they were telling the truth, and they agree that the contents of the statement are true and correct. So, yeah, that sort of, I suppose, covers most of it. So, yeah.
Thanks, Pat. That's great. I had a case that caused me to become a loss adjuster. As you saw in those videos, a guy that got electrocuted by overhead power lines, and he was working as a plumber's assistant, and he pulled the spouting up and touched the wires. And 3 young kids on bikes saw it, and they were all 10 years old. And it happened in my own hometown, and I knew their mother. I went to school with her. And I said to the other loss adjuster who was working on the other side, who'd contacted the mother, I said, look, she doesn't want her son, he's so psychologically scarred by what he saw with that flash and the lightning and the guy coming off the roof and the amp. And it was a terrible thing to see. Anybody would be scared of it. And this loss adjuster agreed that he would not interview that young child. He rang me up 2 days later and offered me a job as a loss adjuster. So,
the main issue you've got to look at with the person, well, the young person who's between 10 and 14 and subsequently up to 17, is the fact that you've got to establish that the child understands it's more than just naughty behaviour. It's actually something that's seriously wrong, or it's a crime, and that's the sort of questioning that you have to follow.
Okay, Pat, I've got 2 more questions for you, mate. I have explained to everybody what a brick is, because they're going to come across police terms when they go out and do interviews. There's 2 police terms that factual investigators are going to come across all the time, especially when they're interviewing police officers. Number 1, I arrived there and there was claret everywhere. And number 2, he had a bit on board. Now, these are typical answers, descriptions given by police officers in motor vehicle accident situations or motor vehicle accident scene situations or whatever. Can you explain what those 2 terms
they're both slang terms, just slang terms that are used by people who, in emergency services predominantly, claret is blood. So if you get to a scene and the witness, who may come out of an emergency services background, might say there was a fair bit of claret around. So that's blood. So when they say that the person had a bit on board, that means that they were intoxicated or well on the way to being intoxicated by the consumption of alcohol.
So why won't they admit to he was as pissed as a fart?
Look, observations are very important, particularly in private investigation matters, because what you're doing is to satisfy the civil burden of proof, which is balance of probabilities. It's not like criminal matters where you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt. So observations of someone, and you get a number of witnesses that can give evidence of the fact that their coordination was affected. They couldn't stand, they were staggering, they fell over, they dropped their car keys, things like that. Those observations are very good in statements when you're in the private sector. Great.
Thanks, Pat. I really appreciate you coming in, mate. Right. Stick around and have a chat to you after the program. We'll see you back again soon. Thanks, mate. In government investigation news this week, this former mayor of Ipswich has pled guilty to sexual assault and perverting the course of justice. He's already serving time for fraud, or had been. I don't know whether he was in and out again, but this is what the certificate for in government investigators are going to be investigating, this type of thing. So he's now pled guilty to sexual assault, perverting the course of justice. And this is part of the description that was in the paper. I can't say his name, Pissasal. I don't know how to say that. He pleaded guilty to 27 counts of fraud, 1 count each of receipt of secret commissions by an agent, fraud of property and perjury. In June 2019, he was found guilty of extortion and sentenced to 2 years in jail, suspended after 1 year. He posed as a private investigator and demanded thousands of dollars from an ex-boyfriend of an escort he had been seeing. So a very messy situation. That's the sort of stuff that you will do as a certificate for in government investigator. So, you know, these things happen. It's not everybody, but that's the sort of thing that can come up. Big news this week, really, really big news. Look at these job vacancies that are out there. These are just some of them. They're not all of them. So if you go to my Facebook page, Australian Private Investigator Corporate and Government Investigation Jobs, you'll see all these vacancies. But these jobs from M&A, LKA, Verifact, Brookside and ProCare, they're there for factual investigators. They've all been advertised this week and more. So jump over to my Australian Private Investigator Corporate and Government Investigations job page and have a look at it. So there are jobs there everywhere for private investigators at the moment. COVID-19, forget it. That these jobs, they're real, they're there, you can apply for it. They want to hear from you. So great opportunities in private investigation. But look, really seriously, forget about it. Compared to this job, which is going to be the best job you have ever seen, you don't want that one, you want this one. This is a Certificate 4 in Government Investigator job, and it's the best job you could ever get.
Just gotta let it go. I often sit and wish that I could just change my past. To think about you, Dad, there's so much shit that I could ask. Like, why am I still haunted by the day that you left?
Hi, I'm Mick from CASA, and today we're going to do a drug test of these pingers. Okay, so I'm going to test these pingers. The first one, only you can see it, I can't see it. So I'm now going to drug test this pinger. Very nice Boquet. Rat poison. A little bit of cement. I like that. That's high quality cement, that one. Yeah, I'd rate that as good. That's
Afghan.
Western Victoria. Yep, it's Western Victoria. Okay, pinger number 2. We'll test this pinger. Yep, that's crispy. It's got a good aftertaste. I detect that there's some plaster in that. Now, that's a bit of plaster. That's something different than cement. But rat poison, not a lot of rat poison, but okay. I'd say, at a stretch, I'd say that one's
Middle Eastern.
Yep, not a bad pinger. Okay, last pinger. Not having any effect on me.
Undercover cop.
I love you, man. I really love you, man. That's all from the drug test at CASA today, the 224th of September 2011. How good's that? You get paid by the government to test drugs. So get online, get over into my Facebook page, and you'll see that job come up. So have a look at it. Get over there and have a look for it. Why were you the only person laughing during that? Yeah, think about that. So the next thing we've got to look at today, we're going back to Josh. What was Josh's other question? What advice would you give young people wishing to enter the investigative industry, and what skills and experiences should they have prior to becoming an investigator? Well, Josh, I got interviewed yesterday by a gentleman named Mario Beckes, and he gives some really good advice for people who want to do something. This is Mario. He has inside intelligence in New South Wales. And if you're going to ask me what advice I'd give, I'd like you to just watch this. It goes for a couple of minutes, but it's really worth watching. Here's Mario to tell you his story about how he became an Australian licensed investigator.
My name is Mario Beckes, 46 years old, Managing Director of Inside Intelligence Group. I'm the guy who was working in government service intelligence investigations. diplomatic and military. And what our business does is basically we providing investigative intelligence solutions, political intelligence, social media intelligence. We're doing the claims investigation for insurance company. We are the guys who preparing documents and evidence and reports in case they're going to court or need to prosecute somebody or they need to prove some claim. 1986, Christmas 1986, I come home, I was playing with my friends in the schoolyard. It was a very cold day. I come home and then my father told me, I don't want you to live with me anymore. We can't feed you anymore. We have your brother here. And he told me basically a couple, swear words and he threw me out. So I was thinking he was joking. I tried to come back. Somebody of the neighbors called my grandfather. I was lucky enough, fortunate enough. He was working in secret police. He was a high position man, hard-working man, highly respected. He hugged me and he says to me, let's go to my unit. And he told me, you stay with me from now on. He told me, you don't need to be what you are. You can be whatever you want and I'll help you. And I told him I want to be the spy. He told me, no way, because he was doing intelligence. He embedded into me belief that I can achieve what I want to achieve. And basically what he was telling me, it's not what you're by nature, what you're by nurture. And since that moment, even was a breaking point in my life to be the 14 years old, without nothing, that was a moment defined me actually. Love and most importantly, believe in yourself, that you can do it. So society and the people around you tell you can't do it. I was a bad student. Of course I was bad. I can't hide that one. But I was dreaming I can achieve, and I did achieve. Only because I believe myself and a person who loved me, like in my today life, my family loved me, I achieved the goals. Quitting is not an option. You can't quit. I've been in the army for almost 10 years and 6 years in the war. So quitting was for the cowards. You consider the coward. But it's not even being coward. It's about who you are in your nature of life. If you're quitting, you're always going to be the quitter. You're never going to achieve. 2009 was a breaking point. I lost a job due to global financial crisis. 2 months later, we losing home. I sold my wife all jewelry. Nobody gave it nothing to us. And only what I could sell was the toys. The lowest point was selling the Thomas the Tank. Yeah, Thomas the Tank cash converters. It breaks your heart. It breaks your heart seeing your kid. He wants that blue Thomas the Tank. He wanted a Thomas the Tank, and you would like, no, you need to buy the milk. So you go ahead. So if you survive this breaks you, it actually remakes you. After I said to my wife, I said to my child, even he's young, it's like, I'm gonna start running my business. And my wife, then she says, just do it. If you don't do it now, when are you gonna do it? And they believe in me at the moment, and they believe it still today. So that's the difference. If you believe in what you try to achieve, nobody has right to tell you what to do, how to do it, what to believe. So people telling me, yes, you can achieve. I need a speech therapist, so English is poor. Who do you think you are? You're just a foreigner, off the boat. You married for the visa. The thing is, I was continuously being fed in my life. You can't do it, you can't do it. But I never want to quit because I saw something there's more for me in this life.
Mario, mate, this is an uplifting Friday program to inspire people. Now you've made me all depressed, kicked out of home at 10, had to sell your children's toys. Here to cheer everybody up is a video of Mario getting bashed up. Well, actually, that's Mario bashing someone else up. Mario is there in a corporate fight night where he's raising money for charity. Mario, all-around good bloke, fantastic investigation agency at Insight Intelligence down in New South Wales. And if you just want to know a little bit about what he said there, you can be whatever you want to be, Josh. Believe in yourself, mate. Mario was a bad student. He couldn't hide it. The lowest point in his life was selling his kids' toys. He had a supportive wife. He said, I want to do a business about investigations. He said, just do it. If you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? And he said he was used to being told he can't. You heard him say, You need speech therapy. You can't speak English. Who do you think you are? You need a visa. You're a foreigner straight off the boat. And then he said, I never want to quit because I saw something that is more for me in this life. And that's paid off for Mario. So great bloke, Mario. There are people out there in investigation land. They're just like this guy here, Cardinal Wolseley. He always wore a hair shirt. He was in charge of the Church of England. He couldn't get a divorce for Henry VIII, one of the wives. He ended up executed. But, you know, he used to flagellate himself every day over this, that, and what was right, and never had a happy moment in his life. And there's a lot of investigators like that. Don't listen to them. If they tell you you can't, Josh, ignore them. You go ahead and do what you want to do. So let's go back to an investigation industry association. Sounds like a whole bunch of old people standing around singing the national anthem. The only thing that happened in industry associations this week is over at ACLA, the Loss Adjusting Association. ACLA members have rebelled against one of the rules at the Loss Adjusting Association. So the members have written to the president, they've written to the secretary, they're not happy at all, and they want change made. So I'll keep you posted on what happens with that. That's some news that's happened in investigations this week. Out there with various things that have been happening. 153 million in insurance claims paid out every day. So 5% of that comes to us as investigations because it's not paid out. Lot to look forward to for the rest of 2020. All those jobs you saw that were advertised this week are there available for factual investigators. Get in and apply for them. They're on this website. Have a look at it. Join it. I've really enjoyed having you here this week. If there's any part of that you disagree with, don't like, or whatever, watch the replay, okay? Get in touch with me. If you have a question, get in touch with me, all right? I'm here to answer those questions. I'm Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy. I'm going out with my usual way.
작전 종료. 전원 복귀할 것.
That's the weekend in 24th of September 2020 at the Australian Security Academy in Investigations in Australia. I'm Mike Evans. See you.